Thank you, Madam Chair. And Director Chopra, your statement that the Bureau is focused on enforcement of against only the largest firms is curious, because the Bureau has recently told a very small consumer lender to sue in order to find out what they allegedly did wrong. So that doesn't really square with your statement. But let me focus on the Fifth Circuit decision really quickly. Director Chopra, are the funds of the CFPB congressionally appropriated?
So the question of whether it meets the appropriations clause of the Constitution, which says no money shall be drawn from the Treasury but in consequence of appropriations made by law, that is the subject of a Supreme Court petition by the Solicitor General. That is an open issue.
Yeah, and the Solicitor General on your behalf says that the CFPB's funding statute indisputably establishes an appropriation under the long-accepted understanding of that term. Let me read to you what the Fifth Circuit says about that argument. It contends that there is no constitutional infirmity because its funding scheme was enacted by Congress. In essence, the Bureau contends that because Congress spun the agency's funding mechanism into motion when it passed the act, voila, the appropriations clause is satisfied. The Bureau's argument not only misreads Supreme Court precedent, but also the plain text of the appropriations clause. What is that clause? No money shall be drawn from the Treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law. And the Fifth Circuit says this: a law alone does not suffice. An appropriation is actually required. So, again, are the funds of the CFPB congressionally appropriated or not?
So you should look at the Solicitor General's opinion.
I have.
That is the best and most authoritative view of the United States and the executive branch. And our funds are it's the same funding as the Federal Reserve Board.
And you're double insulated because you get your funding from the Federal Reserve. But Mr. Chopra,
the Federal Reserve Board is
Mr. Chopra, reclaiming my time. In 2012, the Bureau's first director, Richard Cordray, testified that the revenues were, quote, non-appropriated funds. He said what is obvious to everyone. The Bureau has released 3 public reports that state that the funding for the Bureau happens outside of the traditional appropriations process. Last year, you testified that the base level of funding is, quote, guaranteed by statute. That doesn't sound like the appropriations process. What is your position, sir?
Is this a trick question?
No, it's not a trick question.
The answer is very clearly outlined in the Solicitor General's opinion. We believe the Fifth Circuit opinion's ruling is not correct, and we have the Solicitor General has petitioned this issue. There are many.
Director Chopra, reclaiming my time. If the Supreme Court does what it will do and affirms the Fifth Circuit's decision, doing not the absurd thing, as the chair says, but actually the constitutional thing, which is to vindicate the separation of powers, I want to know, are you going to support my TABS Act, which would put the Bureau under congressional appropriations to save your agency?
Well, we will comply with whatever the Supreme Court rules. We always work with everyone on any potential legislation.
Reclaiming my time. Your exam manual updating the interplay between UDAP and anti-discrimination statutes. Do you believe your exam manual fills gaps where there is presently no specific anti-discrimination law like the Fair Housing Act or the Equal Credit Opportunity Act?
Well, the prohibition on unfair acts or practices has 3 prongs. Some of the conduct that may be
I don't have much time, Director. Does it fill gaps or not?
The law is
Let me ask the question a different way. You say in your press release in March, examiners will require companies to show their processes for assessing risk and discriminatory outcomes, including documentation of customer demographics, et cetera. Were companies required to do that before your exam manual update?
The manual is guidance for examiners.
Were they required to do that before, Director?
The examiners or the institution?
Did examiners, before your update, did examiners look for disparate impact in conduct not covered by fair lending laws?
Disparate impact is not a theory of liability under unfairness. Unfairness has substantial injury, reasonable avoidability.
Director, reclaiming my time, and I'm running out of time. You're changing the law. You're
I'm not
changing the
changing
law
the law.
without
You
Congress.
change your
And
job
you
is to change the law.
and you are changing the law without Congress.
I'm not.
Yes,
It's existing
yes, you are.
law.
These are obligations not previously required. And you think you're Congress. You are
I
not.
don't. You're Congress,
You
and
are
if you wanna
not.
change the
This
law,
is not
we will work.
interpretive guidance. You're trying to change the law.
Not true, sir.
I yield back.